This is Day 3 notes for Unit 1 of Algebra 1. The topic today is absolute value equations. The term absolute value means a number's distance from 0, and since it's a distance is positive. You never tell your coach, I ran negative 10 miles yesterday. That just doesn't make sense. Every time we measure distance is positive. So consider this equation. This says the absolute value of x equals 8. So what numbers are 8 steps away from 0? Well, most people are automatically going to think positive 8, but negative 8 is also 8 steps away from 0. It is very possible that we're going to have two answers today, a positive and a negative. Consider this next scenario. Absolute value of x equals negative 2. Now I just got done saying that absolute value is a distance and distance is positive. Here I'm asking you for a number whose distance is negative. That's impossible. There's no way that can happen, so there's no answer. So to solve these equations, we need to make sure the absolute value is by itself. We need to make sure the absolute value equation is set to a positive number. And if it is, then we set up two equations to solve. Why 2? Because in this scenario up here, again, there are two numbers that are 8 steps away from 0, 8 and negative 8. So number 1 is just a continuation of this scenario up here. The only difference is there's this negative 4 inside the parentheses. Doesn't matter, we're going to still think of it the same way. I want something, so when I'm done subtracting, my answer is 8 steps away from 0. Well, the two numbers that are 8 steps away from 0 are 8 and negative 8. So I'm going to set up two equations. X minus 4 equals negative 8. X minus 4 equals positive 8. We have two really simple one-step equations to solve. This 4 is negative, so I'm going to add it over. X equals negative 4. Here again, I'm going to add the 4 over. X equals 12. So we have two answers to our problem, negative 4 and positive 12. Question 2. The absolute value is by itself. There's no numbers outside. This number is positive, so that's fine. So now we're going to set up equations. Now this is 0. How many numbers are 0 steps away from 0? Only the number 0 is 0 steps away from 0. So this is a rare case where we only have one equation we have to write. Negative 4x equals 0. So if we solve, x is 0. And that's our answer. Question 3. There's no numbers outside the absolute value sign, but this number is negative. We can't have negative distances, so this is no solution. NS, you saw that abbreviation in the last lesson. And it's okay again to write no solution. It's no solution because 10 is negative. Here's problem number 4. All the numbers outside the absolute value signs are gone, and this number is positive. So I can write two equations. What two numbers are 10 steps away from 0? 10 and negative 10. Notice what was inside the absolute value signs is written in both equations. This one's going to be a little bit longer to solve because there's two numbers to get rid of. I have to move the 2 over through addition, so 10 plus 2 is 12. Then we have to divide by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. I'm going to mimic those same steps in the second equation. Add 2 over, negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. Divide by 4, x is negative 2. So here are the two answers. 5 and 6. You'll notice that there's a number outside the absolute value sign. We have to get rid of it. So we're going to move it this number like we move any other number. Since this says -3, we're going to do the opposite and add 3 over. Now we have the statement -5 plus 3 is -2. So all of the numbers are away from the absolute value signs. This is a negative number. This is asking us for numbers whose distance is -2. But distance can't be negative, so this is no solution. Question 6. We've got a number outside the absolute value signs. We have to get rid of it. That's +3. To undo it, we're going to subtract 3. 14 minus 3 is 11. 11 is positive, so we can solve this. What two numbers are 11 steps away from 0? +11 and -11. You'll notice what was inside the absolute value signs. I kept bringing down. I put it in both equations. So it's set equal to +11, and 5x plus 1 is set equal to -11. To solve, we use all the steps we've learned before. 1 is positive. I have to undo it, so I'm going to subtract. 11 minus 1 is 10. I have to get rid of this 5, so I divide. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Mimic those steps in the second equation. Subtract 1. -11 minus 1 is -12. Get rid of the 5, so we divide, and we have -12/5. That's a fraction that can't reduce. You can leave it a fraction. I don't even need a decimal answer. So there are our two answers. Let's do a couple together now. As I see, we've got this 8 that needs to move. It's negative, so I'm going to add it over, leaving me the absolute value of 2x minus 4 equals 2. 2 is a positive number. That means I can solve this. What two numbers are 2 steps away from 0? +2. So I can say 2x minus 4 equals +2. -2 is also 2 steps away from 0. So then I can say 2x minus 4 equals -2. Solve these like we've been solving everything else this unit. Add our constant over. 2x equals 6. I have to break up the multiplication, so I'm going to divide. X equals 3. Mimic those same steps on the other side. So we add 4 over. 2x equals 2. Divide by 2. X is 1. Here are our two answers. Number 8. I've got a number outside the absolute value sign. I have to move it. It's -9, so I'm going to add it over to the other side. And then I have the absolute value of 0.5x minus 7 equals 1. Is 1 a positive number? Yes, it is. So that means I can solve this. The two numbers I need to use are 1 and -1. So I'm going to say 0.5x minus 7 equals 1. 0.5x minus 7 equals -1. Solve. I've got to move my constant over, add 7. 0.5x equals 8. I have to divide. Not sure what that is. So if I use my calculator, 8 divided by 0.5 is 16. So my answer here is 16. Mimic those steps. Add 7 over. 0.5x equals 6. Divide by 0.5. Do that on my calculator. 6 divided by 0.5, 12. So x is 12. There's my two answers. Now, in the examples, 5, 6, 7, and 8, we've moved numbers away from the absolute value sign by adding or subtracting. There was this number out here that we moved by adding or subtracting. In 9 through 12, we have to do some division instead, because this is -5 times something. And we have to get rid of this -5 outside the absolute value sign. So we're going to divide both sides by -5. Those two 5's cancel, and I'm left with what's inside the absolute value signs. -25 divided by -5 is +5. Since this number is positive, that means that I have two answers, two numbers that are 5 steps away from 0, +5 and -5. So I'm going to write two equations. 5 minus x equals +5. 5 minus x equals -5. Solve. This 5 is positive. I have to move it through subtraction. -x equals 0. There's a -1 in front of that x, so I have to divide by -1. X is 0. Mimic those steps. Subtract 5 from both sides. I have -x is -10. This is a -1x, so I divide by -1. X is 10. There's my two answers. Question 10. This number outside the absolute value signs is being multiplied. So to undo multiplication, I'm going to divide. Those -3's cancel. Divide this by -3. When I cancel those -3's, I'm left with what's inside the absolute value signs. And -15 divided by -3 is +5. Since that's positive, that means I can answer this question. The two numbers that are 5 steps away from 0 are 5 and -5. So set up my two equations. Setting them equal to 5 and -5. I have to get rid of my constant term, so I will subtract. Divide by -4. X is 11/4, and just leave it there. Mimic those steps. Subtract 16. -4x equals -21. Divide by -4. X is 21/4. Again, leave the fraction the way it is. It's fine. It can't be reduced, so we're just going to let it be. In question 11, I'm going to get rid of the 5 outside by division. So divide both sides by 5. Left with what's inside the absolute value signs. So absolute value of 5x minus 3 equals 4, since 20 divided by 5 is 4. 4 is positive, so I can set up two equations. The first one is set equal to +4. The second equation is set to -4. Solve the equations like we've been doing. Move the constant over. That says negative, so I'm going to add it. 4 plus 3 is 7. I have to get rid of this 5, so I divide. 7/5 is a fraction I can't simplify. I'm just going to leave it. Mimic those steps. 3 is negative. I have to move it, so I add. -4 plus 3 is -1. Then we have this 5x. Break up that by dividing by 5. -1 divided by 5, can't do, just leave it as a fraction. There's our two answers. Question 12. Divide both sides by 7. I'm left with 3x plus 2, the absolute value of that on the left. -21 divided by 7 is -3. Absolute value can't be negative, so we're done. We're going to write NS for no solution. The key is making sure the absolute value is by itself and that the number on the right hand side is positive. If the number on the right is positive, you can make two equations. If the number on the right is negative, you can't do anything with it. Stop, write no solution.